This is Sara-Jayne Parsons from the Art Galleries at TCU, and I'm delighted to be here in the studio today with artist Kris Pierce. Kris Pierce, who lives and works here in Fort Worth and is part of a project called Persona, which features also the work of Richie Budd and John Rasimus. The Persona project opens February 25th, and it's going to run till the end of semester. Within the idea of Persona are 3 concurrent solo exhibitions by the artists. And Kris is here today to talk about his individual presentation, the exhibition Oil Can Tremolo. Hi, Kris. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Good. You're welcome. What I'd love for our listeners to kind of grab quickly is that your work and your practice and the works that are in the show are a reflection of what you see as the dynamic between our virtual and physical identities. And so you're using elements of social media, and you're gathering of real-time sources from social media that are going to be part of the show. And then you're also, alongside your multimedia work, showing painting. It's kind of an interesting digital and almost analog, old, new, traditional, dynamic, new, experimental duality that you're setting up. Can you tell us a little bit more about what our listeners would expect coming into the gallery to see your show, Oil Can Tremolo?
Yeah, so I would say, like, traditionally, a lot of the work that I've been making would be, time-based media work, a lot of video animation and stuff like that. But over the past maybe 2 to 3 years, I've started to evolve the work to be, I would say, more sculptural, and start to move into the physical space a little bit more. I think that came out of a couple of different things, but one thing that I thought about or was confronted with a lot when making the work that I made before was, because like video content is so ever present in our world, there's not the same sense of value that maybe physical objects have, especially in like a gallery setting. And I think that in order to slow people's process down when like encountering the work, the creation of like more physical objects was a way to like do that. It's a way to give it a little bit more like gravity than it had as it was just like video work. So that being said, the work that's in the exhibition is, I would say, a combination of video and like sculptural work. Some of it being paintings, more like sculptural paintings that have a combination of like different objects and video content that's actually in the same space or mounted on panels. And then there's a large video work that's kind of like the central of the exhibition that's actually called Vampire Jukebox. And that piece is kind of a combination of a video projection that uses a lot of like real-time data that's pulled from Twitter and TikTok, and it's presented inside of like a video, a real-time piece of software that's inside a video game engine. And then in addition to that, there's a sculptural piece that kind of plugs into the video that has like an audio component that's coming, that's actually feed out of TikTok, and it's very like sculptural and pulls a lot of, I guess, aesthetic sensibilities and stuff from things like guitar amps and arcade machines and stuff like that. But it was really trying to take something that felt very time-based and make it more real-time in an effort for it to feel more alive. So you're seeing, you could come in and see the piece every day and it would be different, because all of the information that's being pulled and being presented in the screen are real-time tweets. So it's changing from, minute to minute, and then the same with the TikTok videos.
And do you have any filters in place, or is it just really it's complete live stream that comes through?
It's completely live stream. Yeah, there's no filter.
There's a freedom to understanding what content may appear in one day, depending on something that might be happening in the news or in the entertainment business or other kind of popular cultural encounters or things that kind of move social media in a particular direction. So the content will just be driven in a really ambiguous, fluid way.
Right. Yeah. So in some way, I see my role as like trying to get out of the way as much as possible. And I think if I was to filter anything, then I'm starting to inject some of my ideas in a way that I think is a little bit less interesting. So yeah, everything is real time and live, and you get what you get, which I find like exciting. 'Cause it can be wholesome to like sleazy,
Which is life, right?
yeah, and it's the nature of online content and social media.
And I'm really struck with the title for your show, Oil Can Tremolo, 'cause I know you've described it to me before, and I think it really encapsulates that digital analog relationship that you're talking about in terms of the content and the materiality of the works that you're making. Could you explain the title a little bit more for our listeners?
So an oil can tremolo or oil can reverb or delay, it has like different names. It's actually like an analog component that's included in a lot of old guitar amps and stuff like that, where a signal goes into what's not technically, but like a small can, where it bounces around against like an oil disc, and that creates like a reverb effect or a tremolo effect or whatever before it's outputted through the amplifier. And just because I have a lot of connection to music, like I grew up playing in bands and stuff like that, since I was 14 years old, that stuff comes through my work a lot. But, in addition to that, it was a connection to this idea of digital space as like an echo chamber where, in very much the same way of like a tremolo just repeats itself over and over again. That felt like a somewhat interesting connection to myself. Because the one thing that you notice when you're engaging with the work, especially like the large piece in the exhibition, is how much repetition there is. You see a lot of people online that will like hashtag influencer type of things across Twitter and stuff like that present themselves as like an individual. But once you start to see them in the context of a piece like this, you see that there's just a lot of repetition. It's this idea of like retweeting like a statement that just gets retweeted or across social media, and then it starts to enter into like the mass media or like the zeitgeist. It's very much the same way that like a symbol does. So,
and then that reinvention or that recycling of the individual, the original comment, becomes kind of interesting, right? That repetition, does that lead to escalation, or does that lead to a dilution of the original content? It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and then like that happening in physical space is completely different from it happening in digital space or across social media and stuff, where the people like controlling that the control inside of that world is placed by a completely different set of rules than it does, say, like in this room. There's like a system in place that is that certain people just know how to exploit or amplify, be it for positive or negative reasons.
Well, Kris, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm going to encourage everybody to go see Oil Can Tremolo at Fort Worth Contemporary Arts, opening on February 25th. And Kris, it's such a pleasure to have you with us here today. You are locally based here in Fort Worth, but you've shown your work all over the world: Japan, Switzerland, Sweden, South Korea, and it's just really lovely to be able to showcase your work here to your home crowd in a way.
Yeah, that's nice.
And really for our students to have the opportunity to engage with your accomplished work.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Kris. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.